Just extraordinary what we witnessed on the first day of Test cricket for the Indian and South African men's teams in 2024. This is the 147th year of Test match cricket. It still does not cease to amaze us. As Sanjay Manjrekar looks back on a day on espncricinfo match day of 23 wickets, a great bowling display, and I'd like you to put the adjectives in to how you sum up the batting. You've seen and covered so much Test cricket. What are your impressions as a result of what we've seen today?
Well, it's actually a reflection of the current reality of Test cricket, where when you have a pitch that has a lot for seam bowlers or any bowler, the kind of skills that you need to survive are impossible to attain in this current landscape, where the focus of every batter, if I was born in this generation, I would be focused more on white ball cricket. And, because you play, you want to be on a platform which is the most visible and most popular, and Test cricket was very popular during our time. So it's somewhat unrealistic to expect the young batters especially, and they were packed on both sides. We had a lot of young batters taking to Test cricket to stuff for those guys to survive.
For context of what you're saying, when you make this about observations specific to this generation, if you had a similar sort of surface with similar threatening bowlers back in your day, can you narrate how it possibly would have been countered?
I think the match would perhaps finish on day 3 instead of day 2. I mean, just to give you an example, it's something that I sort of never looked at properly with numbers. I remember Ravi Shastri and myself, we used to bat. He used to open. I used to bat at number 3. I'm going way back to 1993, and Ravi Shastri actually had scores of 23.
This is South Africa again.
South
saying
Africa.
92, the first tour.
Yeah. And he batted for 3 hours. For 20 runs. There was one inning where I got 35 and I batted for under 3 hours. So I guess in some ways we could survive. The pitch wasn't as tricky as this, but we were better survivors. But when it came to run making or counter attacking or putting the opposition off their plans, the current generation is a lot better. And I wrote an article as well saying that we weren't better cricketers in the past. We were just better Test cricketers and had better defense. But overall, when you look at these guys trying to handle 3 formats, I just find that almost an impossible task to achieve. And to excel in 3 formats is just incredible.
I will talk about the bowling specifically and what improved. But since we're having quite an interesting chat on why this has happened, do you sense this is therefore not a great surface for Test match cricket, or is it just par for the cause? It's okay to have a surface like this where 23 wickets will fall because it's that difficult?
I think we've got to change with times, and when you prepare a lively pitch like this, in today's scenario, where defense becomes paramount, then maybe not the ideal surface. Plus the fact, if you had 2 batting lineups, let's imagine with a lot of experience of Test cricket, maybe they would have handled the surface better. But I'm not going to be too critical of both batting lineups for having the kind of collapses that they did.
To perhaps challenge your point, even batters we expect knowing how to survive, like a Dean Elgar, who's a hometown boy, has fallen twice in this day. So does that tell us something of maybe how good the bowling was, or perhaps this is above difficulty levels even for the good Test batters of their times?
See, Dean Elgar has always had a couple of weaknesses. So he's not been like a Kane Williamson or a Joe Root or a Steve Smith or a Virat Kohli of this generation. So he's had those weaknesses. India exploited those weaknesses better. He got out over the wicket. He got out round the wicket. That's to emphasize the point that there was a lot in the pitch. The other interesting thing with this Kookaburra ball, the toughest time to play is in the first 30 overs. You go past 35, 40 overs, it just gets easier to survive. But both teams actually got out. I mean, South Africa in the 24th over and India around the 30th. So they played the toughest possible conditions. So it was like the perfect storm for both batting teams.
All right, let's go to the first session because so much to unpack. Mohammad Siraj with career best figures after some criticism afforded to the overall Indian bowling plans, including for Bumrah and Siraj, who were still the better bowlers. What impressed you most about what they learned from Centurion and what they got right in the first session?
I think Mohammad Siraj was brilliant. He learned the fact of South Africa that you don't try to swing the ball and get wickets. You use the pitch more. And he and Mukesh Kumar, I thought, did a perfect job. Bumrah is still getting there, and so is Prasidh Krishna. Interestingly, South Africa as well made the same mistakes. I mean, the amount of drives that were played in the first, 50, 70 runs that India scored. So despite 2 bowling attacks not combining together. Normally when you have collapses, you have 4 bowlers bowling superbly to skittle out teams for 55 and 100 odd. But this was a case of even 2 bowlers being more than enough, hitting their straps to get teams all out in this fashion.
Yeah, it's a fair point, because Ravindra Jadeja and Keshav Maharaj have both been picked in this test match. They've had very little to do other than make up the numbers for 11v11. But Siraj, when he gets on a roll, is he perhaps the most dangerous test bowler India have? Bumrah, when he's good, is good through a consistent period of a spell. Siraj can get 6 in 9 overs, almost the Stuart Broad-esque effect in this format.
And you mentioned that earlier as well. And I'm just trying to find what are the parallels and the similarity between a Broad and a Mohammad Siraj, Anil Kumble as well in that regard. Is that just the spirit of these guys? Broad is a great trier. Mohammad Siraj, his tail is up. He's got 6 wickets, but his tail is still up when he hasn't got a wicket in 20 overs. You just watch that footage and you wouldn't be able to tell whether he's had a bad day or a good day. Same with Anil Kumble. So that is first very important, that temperament. Plus, I think you've got to have an action which is repeatable. Just come in there and over after over. So he was exactly the same in the first over and also in the 10th over. He's an athlete and a bowling action that he's very comfortable with. So that's another important thing. You wouldn't think somebody like an Avish Khan would be able to repeat his first over exactly the way he would bowl his 10th. Sure. You'll see something changing. With Mohammad Siraj, it doesn't.
All right, that is the best that we've seen of Siraj in Test cricket. Yet, let's not forget the supporting role. Bumrah, we've come to expect this from. Mukesh Kumar, tactical selection ahead of Shardul Thakur, which did lengthen the tail. We'll come to that in a little while. But Mukesh Kumar ensured there were no annoying runs towards the end of the South African innings, wrapped up the first innings. And thankfully, because of his spell, he also leaves South Africa 3 down before stumps. We talk about Prasidh taking time, learning to bowl in South Africa. Mukesh Kumar, from what you've seen today, tells you that there's a lot to like and look forward to for this bowler as well?
Specific conditions. We used to make a lot of mistakes during our time where we would pick a guy who's got loads of runs on Indian pitches and take him to England, South Africa, Australia, and the poor batter would struggle. So when I look at Mukesh Kumar, it's something that we talked about as well in the preview to the series, that his bowling style is ideal for South African pitches. Maybe he won't get as much in Australia, where maybe he'll have to work a little harder. England as well. So it's very important that now that you have such a selection.
If you can extend on that point, why is his bowling style more suited for South Africa?
We mentioned that if you try and swing the ball, pitch it up, like in England, you get a batter to drive and you get him out in the slips. In South Africa, Vernon Philander, emphasize on the point, if you're trying to swing the ball, you won't get wickets. Don't try and swing the balls, which means just get a little shorter, look for help from the pitch, keep it simple, outside the off stump. And that is his natural bowling style. Even when he's bowling in the West Indies or even in one-day cricket, that's his go-to ball, a bit like Mohammad Shami. Yeah. So that is why horses for courses, they say, bowlers as well. And because you've got now 7 or 8 seam bowlers who are sort of ready to play at the highest level, now pick and choose guys will be great in certain conditions.
I wonder if you can apply that same logic to the batting, because I'm sure there'd be those who are saying, can we pick batters who are more capable of surviving or have a better defensive technique? Because India themselves could have put this game beyond South Africa with even another 50, 60, 80 runs. As it turns out, still could go either way. Where did India go wrong after having such a significant advantage bowling South Africa out? Do you afford any criticism to the way the middle order batted?
See, in the context of the game, when they've got a lead of close to 100, you would say India batted well enough. And I'm going to be understanding of the fact that South Africa as well, in their top 6, they have 3 guys who are very new to Test cricket, and this is the new breed that practices power shot making more than the little nuances. You saw Tristan Stubbs play the way he did. So I wouldn't be too critical of the Shreyas Iyers or like a Yashasvi Jaiswal or a Shubman Gill for that matter. Learning on the job, that is going to be the new reality, because this is the first batch of Test batters that Indian cricket is seeing who are sort of weaned on white ball cricket and the kind of batting that you see in T20 cricket.
Do you sense that this is still a great opportunity to counter these challenges? Jaiswal gets a 40 odd, Shreyas Iyer hangs around for an hour even if he gets a 12 like in your day. Do you sense that these are opportunities that have perhaps been lost Who knows when India pick another overseas tour to South Africa, but they have a big one towards the end of the year to Australia. I wonder if any judgments or observations can still be made in spite of how difficult batting conditions were today.
See, opportunities were lost as in they didn't get the runs.
Yes.
But when you saw Yashasvi Jaiswal, bat in that first innings, when he got, I think, 17 runs, he showed, good defense and what you need. And for somebody who is capable of scoring a strike rate of 116 in the first 10 balls in T20 cricket, I thought that was great adjustment. Shubman Gill showed, grit today, played out Rabada, lasted long enough to get 30 odd runs. Of the three young players that we see occupying positions 1, 3 and 5, I think Shreyas Iyer needs to do the most work on his defense. Poor fellow, got a great delivery, but that's what you'll get in Test cricket in South Africa. So, yeah, I wouldn't say that they wasted the opportunity. When something is just beyond your control a little bit, you've got to be understanding, and that's going to be my new hat with all these new young batters. Just be understanding of them because they are all learning on the job.
KL Rahul has been on the job for some time though, and again, one partnership there, the game goes further. Man who's got 100 and then fell cheaply in the last innings. On difficult wickets, if you get a Jaffer like a number of batters got, you'd be disappointed. Are you at all disappointed in the way KL Rahul was dismissed here when there was an opportunity to stitch a partnership to perhaps change or extend India's advantage?
Now we are talking, because you're talking about KL Rahul, who has Test match experience, over 40 Test matches. It's a very unique career that he has. He's a very unique batter as well. No doubt about the ability we saw in the first innings. But just look at the last 300s that he's got at the Test level. Good hundreds. And then there is a lull. The next 5 innings in the last 300s, and something that people can check on Stats Guru.
Cricinfo, anywhere you can go, yeah.
Average of 19, 21 and 24. So this is a very unique case where after getting 100, his form just goes down. It's happened 3 or 4 times in his career. Let's hope this time it's slightly different.
Okay, he of course has the protection, you'd say, of really difficult batting conditions where a number of the batters are failing, and therefore on a day like that, Kohli's 46 and Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill's 30 seem to be worth their weight in gold. Standout batter on a tough day for batting, would you still say it's Kohli? And how do you sum up that period of play where lots of boundaries were being hit? India survived 34 overs and yet managed 20 odd boundaries. There were a lot of boundaries still seen when the ball was still doing plenty.
You're talking about Virat Kohli, and he's reminded everyone as to how he's slightly different when it comes to this format. I know he had a great World Cup, but these are tough conditions, and every time he's come into bat, he hasn't got out early. He's hung in there. I think in the last innings, in that first Test match, he would have got 100 if things would have just gone normally. I think he's just more clear in his head, just playing as a player. The last series, I keep harping on the fact that he had a strike rate of 34, and I'm sure somewhere he decided that's not going to happen again. Clear mind, no burden of captaincy, no pressure of retaining leadership, just focusing on his batting. And the great man just showed how somebody can reinvent his own batting, where he started playing those shots square of the wicket. And that was a calculated move, the pull shots as well, to ensure that he doesn't again graft for runs, because that's not Virat Kohli. And on a pitch like this, you need to be looking to score. And my respect for Virat Kohli has grown immensely in this particular series, because this performance is coming well after his 100 Test matches.
Yep, 40s, 30s, 70s, sometimes even more valuable than hundreds. If India certainly get the result, you'd think so. But those loose boundary balls, if we can call them that, before the dramatic collapse, does it surprise you that South Africa were guilty of perhaps the same errors India were in the first Test? They could have had this game perhaps at even pegging had they not given India 50, 60, shall I call it cheap runs?
And that is something I find very frustrating, the controllables. And they just had a recent sort of example, evidence of a Mohammad Siraj doing what you are supposed to do and what you've done historically. I was amazed that Nandri Berger was still trying to get that ball up. Marco Jansen, the amount of drives that were played, I think 5 or 6 boundaries were off balls that were pitched up. And that is something I find very hard to understand. And we are also living in an age where the captains sort of, it seems like it's good leadership to not say anything. Let the, player develop. And they tend to delegate the responsibility. But when you're starting early, somebody like a Dean Elgar could have more of a say, because Nandri Berger, Marco Jansen, I thought, just gave too many easy balls. And in the end, that will come to haunt you. The difference may not be that much. But all those balls under your nose on a pitch that where the devil's peak devil had come into the pitch, they didn't use it enough.
What about South Africa's decision making? Dean Elgar winning the toss and batting first. When your team is bowled out in one session for 55, would you be thinking he got that wrong? It's also a spinner that they've brought in. Wonder if that call makes any sense now. They let a batter go in, Keegan Peterson, to have the services of Maharaj.
It was easy to let go of Keegan Peterson because of his current form, not just in the last test matches. Just before the last test, he had a rotten series in England. And somewhere the overhead conditions, as Vernon Philander mentioned, may have got, at the time of the toss, like it happened in the first test match as well. You look at the overhead conditions, you look at the pitch, and you take a call. And that's the call that South Africa took, which was a great call. Here it was like the sun out. The pitch wasn't a green top. So somewhere you're also thinking of day 3 and 4, where, if things would have proceeded normally, you would have had Keshav Maharaj bowling on a pitch that's turning a bit, plus a little bit of variation. And these are not 4 fast bowling greats that you can just be happy with. So I can understand those selections.
Do we need to think of day 3 and 4?
See, in the last test match, day 3, which used to be traditionally called the moving day, happened to be the final day. Let's forget about calling day 3 here, because day 2 could be the final day.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Sanjay Manjrekar, for your time and your thoughts. Incredible test match. And we've gone on day 1 because of what we've seen, 23 wickets. Who knows? We'll be back at the end of day 2 on ESPN Cricinfo Match Day, perhaps, which will also coincide with the end of this series.